Victor Osimhen's time in Turkey couldn't have gone much better from a sporting perspective. The Nigerian scored 37 times in 41 appearances across all competitions as Galatasaray won a domestic double. Usually, Europe's top clubs will be queuing up to sign such a prolific number 9, particularly as there are so few proven goal scorers on the market right now. And yet, at the time of writing, only Al Hilal have expressed concrete interest in acquiring the Napoli-owned attacker, with the Saudi Arabian outfit willing to make him one of the highest paid players on the planet. So, what on earth is going on with Osihmen? Why is a world-class forward who dreamed of playing in the Premier League seemingly left with no other option but to move to the Middle East? And why is he so reluctant to do so? Go attempts to get to the bottom of the curious case of Victor Osimhen. Napoli knew that Osihmen wanted to leave as far back as the summer of 2023. So, in conjunction with the player and his representative, they eventually came up with a plan. Osihmen would sign a lucrative contract extension until 2026, but actually leave in 2024 for whichever club met his buyout clause of 120 million euros. As far as everyone involved was concerned, this was a win-win. Napoli would get another season out of the striker who had just fired them to the Serie A title before selling him at a massive profit, while Osihmen would be belatedly given the opportunity he'd always craved to join one of Europe's elite. Osihmen even revealed on January 23 that his future had already been decided. "I've made up my mind," he told CBS Sports while on international duty at the Africa Cup of Nations. "I have my plan. I know what I want to do, the next step I want to take." I think 60% of people mentioned the rumors about me linked with the Premier League, and the Premier League is one of the biggest leagues in the world. But I just want to finish the season with Napoli strong, and then follow through on the decision I've already made. Just 3 days later, Napoli president Aurelio De Laurentiis effectively confirmed that Osihmen would leave the club at the end of the 2023-2024 campaign. Even more interestingly, the film producer revealed that the Lagos native would go to Real Madrid, PSG, or some Premier League team. Essentially, there wasn't a doubt in De Laurentiis' mind that someone would be willing to pay a 9-figure fee for the previous Serie A season's capocannoniere with 26 goals in 32 games. 18 months on, though, and Napoli is still looking for a buyer at almost half the price. Circumstances suddenly conspired against Napoli and Osihmen last summer. Real Madrid immediately dropped out of the race after signing Kylian Mbappe, and though the France captain may have moved to Santiago Bernabeu on a free transfer, but the Spaniards still invested a colossal sum of money in Mbappe, whom they wanted to deploy as a centre forward in order to squeeze him into Carlo Ancelotti's starting lineup. Consequently, Madrid simply didn't have sufficient space for Osihmen, either on the wage bill or in the already stacked attack. As for Paris Saint-Germain, Luis Enrique decided that he had no need of another orthodox number 9, even in spite of an early season injury to the inconsistent Gonzalo Ramos. The former Barcelona boss wanted wingers, lots of them. In fact, so he turned down the chance to sign Osihmen during the summer in favor of belatedly bringing in his former Napoli teammate Kvicha Kvaratskhelia during the 2025 winter window. It proved an inspired choice, as PSG's fantastically fluid forward line played a starring role in the Qatari-backed club winning the Champions League for the first time. The long-mooted move to the Premier League very nearly materialized at the end of the window, though despite spending more than £1 billion on players, Chelsea was still crying out for a reliable goal scorer. So their late bid to sign Osihmen made an awful lot of sense. It was a transfer that would have also allowed the Nigerian to follow in the footsteps of one of his childhood heroes, Stamford Bridge icon Didier Drogba. However, the proposed deal reportedly collapsed over Osimhen's exorbitant wage demand. At almost exactly the same time, Al Ahly were trying to convince Osihmen to join them, which was far from straightforward. When Kvaratskelia's agent publicly stated in November 2023 that Osihmen would move to Saudi Arabia the following summer, the former Lille ace reacted furiously to the claim. "Dear Mamuka Jigeli, you're a piece of filth and a disgrace," he wrote on Instagram. "I'm embarrassed at your sense of reasoning. Dumb fuck. Keep my name out of your mouth." While the primary source of Osimen's rage appeared to be someone else sticking their nose into his business, he also seemed annoyed by the suggestion that he would favor a lucrative switch to Saudi Arabia over a transfer to a Champions League contender, a suspicion that was only strengthened by his agent Roberto Calenda, subsequently stating that Victor still has so much to do in Europe. While the primary source of Osimen's rage appeared to be someone else sticking their nose into his business, he also seemed annoyed by the suggestion that he would favor a lucrative switch to Saudi Arabia over a transfer to a Champions League contender, a suspicion that was only strengthened by his agent Roberto Calenda, subsequently stating that Victor still has so much to do in Europe. Nonetheless, with the clock ticking as the close of the 2024 summer window approached and his options diminishing rapidly, Osimhen allegedly accepted a gargantuan offer from Al Ahly only for the Saudi Pro League side to walk away from the deal after Napoli allegedly upped their asking price at the last minute, much to the frustration of the player. By this point, the two parties' relationship had completely broken down, meaning there was no chance of Osimhen staying at the Stadio Diego Armando Maradona, not least because Napoli had already brought in Antonio Conte favourite Romelu Lukaku to replace him. In such acrimonious circumstances, a season-long loan at Galatasaray represented an agreeable outcome for both the player and his employers, as it essentially afforded them all more time to find a long-term solution to their shared problem. Osimen's loan spell at Galatasaray officially came to an end on Monday, and yet he is still stuck in limbo. Basically, as it stands, the Turkish champions can't afford him, while the Italian champions don't want him. Napoli won the Scudetto without Osihmen, and the club's proud and passionate supporters no longer have any time for a perceived traitor that turned his back on a city that had embraced him as one of their own. A lot could obviously happen between now and then, and the hope is that a resolution can be found, not least because the buyout clause that previously stood at 120 million euros was lowered to 75 million euros as part of the agreement he signed with Galatasaray. Napoli made that reduction a stipulation of the deal in order to make it easier for themselves to offload Osihmen, but there still aren't any takers, which is somewhat puzzling because it's not as if Osimhen's efficacy or professionalism have been called into question during his time in Turkey. Since arriving in Istanbul, Osimhen has actually gone beyond expectations, displaying a level of commitment and character that even surpassed what he showed at Napoli, says Idil Eren of Goal Turkey. His humility and behavior off the pitch, combined with his performances on it, have won over fans across the league, and it seems he values the love, respect, and admiration he's received in return. In that sense, a permanent return to Gala still cannot be ruled out, even if some serious financial concessions would need to be made, either by Osihmen or Napoli, for such a deal to happen. It's also clear that the player favors a transfer to a team in one of Europe's Big Five leagues, so it really is odd that he is yet to receive any firm offers, particularly from England. After all, while there are very few vacancies up front among the continent's top teams, several Premier League heavyweights are presently looking for a number 9. Of course, Chelsea now appear to be out of the running after signing both Liam Delap and Joao Pedro, but one cannot help but wonder why the Blues didn't resurrect their interest in Osimhen, who would be a safe bet to score more goals in England's top flight as their two new strikers combined. Arsenal's lack of interest is even more bizarre, though, given the Gunners are presently mulling over the merits of paying mad money for either Benjamin Sesko or Victor Gyökeres, two players with nothing like the same pedigree or quality as Osimhen. Liverpool, meanwhile, have already spent plenty of cash this summer, meaning they would be reluctant to pay Osihmen the kind of wages he's seeking. Still, with Darwin Núñez set to depart and Diogo Jota's fitness a continuous cause for concern, the Reds are likely to need a new striker, whether they want to deploy Florian Wirtz as a false nine or not. Osihmen would undoubtedly add a different dimension to the Champions' attack for half the price of dream signing Alexander Isak, or maybe even less. However, he rejected a move to Al Hilal before the start of their Club World Cup campaign to keep his options open, and the buyout clause in his contract for overseas clubs expires on July 15, meaning that if there is movement before then, Napoli might well have to accept an even lower fee for Osimhen just to get his salary off their books as quickly as possible. In such a scenario, it would become a much more attractive option to one of Europe's strongest sides, and it's also well worth noting that Napoli coach Conte is keen on signing Núñez from Liverpool, meaning some sort of player plus cash swap deal is not beyond the realms of possibility at this stage. It's a similar story with Juventus. They may be Napoli's aired rivals and have just picked up Jonathan David on a free transfer, but the Bayern Canary have a long-standing interest in Osimhen and are looking to offload the highly paid but unwanted striker of their own in Dusan Vlahovic. Certainly, some sort of compromise will certainly have to be reached before the close of the transfer window, because neither Napoli nor Osimhen will want a repeat of last summer's shenanigans. De Laurentiis literally can't afford to allow the current impasse to continue, while Osimhen clearly doesn't want to waste his peak here. A little humility and common sense is badly needed right now, but whereas the pair had a plan not so long ago, they no longer seem to have any idea what they're doing.